Morning, morning, morning. Welcome back to Ty Sports Picks 24. Again, Ty Sports Picks 24. Let's get straight to the picks. Look at the title. Is my coach stealing from the team? See, we got a lot of coaches that are complaining about this and that. Got a lot of players are complaining about this and that. We hold the players accountable. Today, we're going to hold the coaches accountable. What coaches are earning their pay and what coaches are trying to steal. And I don't mean literally steal, but basically you're charging top dollar, but are you delivering for that top dollar that you're charging? So let's get to these MLB picks while I pull up the bottom ticker. You got Arizona Diamondbacks money line, New York Yankees money line, and the New York Mets money line. Down at the bottom, you'll see the cash app. Please donate to the channel so that we can grow. You'll see some new effects today because we're growing. We got dollar sign TY Rebel 22 if you like to donate. And as far as the Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, I want you to follow me at TY Sports Picks 24. So it's all down there at the bottom. The cash app is down at the bottom. Also, we got some WNBA games. Now, you'll notice it's 3 WNBA games, but I only have 2 I picked today because I only trust 2 of these teams. Don't be fooled by the third game. So we got the Connecticut Sun. They're minus 13.5. Really, whatever it is. Some of them moving it to 12.5. Just take the points with them. Then we got the New York Liberty. They're going to be minus 13.5. Now, remember I told you donate because StreamYard, I got different effects. You're actually going to see some of the effects today. I'm going to try to see if we can kick it in to give you an example of what we're doing. Okay, so let's go right here. We'll see if you guys can see what I see. Basically, if you go right here at the bottom, you see the Seattle Storm. The reason why I didn't take that 6.5, and I'm thinking about maybe even not taking the money line is because if you click right here on the Seattle Storm, you'll see they're actually not living up to their full potential. Unlike the New York Liberty and the Connecticut Sun, they haven't hit the ground running since they came back off of that vacation, which was the All-Star break that was connected to the Olympic break. So it was an extended break, almost a month. So you see, they lost to the Dream and they lost to the Fever, 2 teams with under 500 records. Even though the Storm are one of the top teams in the West, they're actually third in the West at 17-10. They're losing to lesser teams. So if you feel froggy, take the leap and you take their opponent, which is the Mystic tonight on the money line. But do not take the points. I repeat, do not take the points for the Seattle Storm. We're going to fade the Storm today. So basically, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and not going with them. I'm going with Connecticut and I'm going with New York. Now, to the topic of the day, coaches. Let's get to it, the coaches. Now, if you know about the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart, he's a coach that's been winning a lot lately. And I mean a lot. They're actually undefeated in the last 3 regular seasons. They only lost in the postseason, which was the SEC championship. Now, Kirby, he wasn't really complaining, but I guess he was warning people beforehand. He was saying how a lot of coaches, including himself and his colleagues, are complaining about not having enough depth, meaning second string, third strings on the bench that are as good as or better than other people that they're going to play, and that worries him. Why does that worry him? Why does that worry you, Kirby? Because you're supposed to be one of the best coaches, and I'm not saying he isn't. But you know, one of my guys that I like to listen to is Colin Cowherd, and he has a great point about Andy Reid versus Bill Belichick, and it's all going to tie in. See, Belichick leads to Saban, and Saban leads to Kirby Smart. And now in the college, because they're not pro players and they used to not get paid and have a transfer portal the way the pros did, the college coaches can talk to them any kind of way and they can do them any kind of way. And you do need discipline because I've been on undisciplined teams. But what I'm alluding to is, are these coaches really earning their pay, or do they just go to universities that have a lot more money than other universities and they basically were able to control the players in that way? You know, because it's a lot of top paid coaches that are leaving college and going to the NFL, but really it's the same game. You might as well stay in college because it's still basically guys that are getting paid and they can leave. Now, the reason why now you're seeing the top paid coaches. So Kirby's getting paid 13 a year. Dabo's getting paid 11 and a half. We're going to get to all of these guys. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the thing I'm noticing with Kirby is that he's having trouble now. It's a level playing field. It's a level playing field. Basically, if we're in the NFL, right, where players get paid and there's free agencies, you also have GMs. You don't control your roster totally. You don't control if you pick at 20 and the player you want get picked at 10. Now you got to get somebody else. Or if one of your players leave in free agency, now you got to get somebody else. So you're kind of handicapped by the whole talent thing. So you have to rest on what? Coaching and teaching. And it's funny because Colin Cowherd was speaking about this earlier with Andy Reid versus Bill Belichick. Now we know Andy Reid was there he was there in Philadelphia while Belichick was there in New England. They were kind of nemesis. Belichick won with Tom Brady, and he had that system, do your job, where guys would just do their job and Belichick would maximize your qualities. I like that. But one thing a lot of people don't like about those type of coaches is sometimes because they do that, they feel like they can treat people any kind of way. I'm not here to agree or disagree because even one of Belichick's disciples, Brian Flores, had that problem with Tua. And now you see Tua's dealing with Mike McDaniel in Miami, and he's doing well. So this is all going to tie in. Just stay with me. Whether it's Mario Cristobal, Coach Prime, is your coach stealing from the team? Or are they earning their money and being underpaid? So if we look at these guys' salaries, not to count their pockets, we look at Kirby, $13 million. You look at Dabo, $11.5 million. Lincoln Riley, $11 million. Steve Sarkisian, $10.3. Kellen DeBoer, $10 million. Florida State's Mike Norvell, $9.8, and so on and so on. So what I'm getting at is who's earning this? Because if you got the best players, is that the reason why you're winning? But now that it's a level playing field and you don't have the best backups or the best third string, what do you rest on if your players get hurt? What do you rest on if your coordinators leave? Because the coaches are leaving too, offensive, defensive coordinators. You know who's going to win? The Andy Reids, not the Belichicks, not the Sabans. That's why Saban got out of the game. This is just my theory. Because check this out, and I'm not totally stealing Cowherd's point because I kind of disagree and agree. I do agree with the Saban and the Belichick discipline. You do have to have discipline, especially with free agency and transfer portal. Because, prime example, there's a guy that left USC named Malachi Nelson. He was a 5-star. I'm not saying he was undisciplined, but I guess he didn't want to compete at USC. Miami deals with that a lot. Guys leave because they don't want to compete. So he went to Boise State and got replaced by a guy that only had one scholarship offer coming out of high school named Mad Dog Madsen. So now you left one place as a 5-star, you go somewhere else, and you still can't play. You stuck like Chuck. Now nobody wants you. But I'm not picking on Malachi Nelson because I think he can still be a great quarterback. He just has to learn and listen. So that's what I like about the Belichicks and the Sabans. You do have to have structure. But at the same time, you got to be a likable guy to a certain extent. And you have to be able to teach. Because my grandmother is a teacher, was a teacher. And one thing she said is she's noticing a lot of new school teachers don't teach. And she was watching sports shows with me. And she said, you know what? I think a lot of these coaches aren't teaching either. Because at the high school level, similar to NFL level, you don't control what players you get. You know, we don't have the money to buy players. So you would have to deal with the players in the neighborhood of Carol City or in the neighborhood of Brooklyn or in the neighborhood of Compton or wherever you coach at. The only thing that stays the same is your playbook, your coaching strategies, your ability to teach. And see, a lot of public schools, you can't coach unless you're a teacher. Therefore, a lot of great coaches are great teachers. It's a combination. That's why you'll see a guy that, you know, he may not look the part, but he's a great coach because he has a teaching background. You know, he knows the sport, but he also knows how to teach people. It doesn't matter what you know until you're able to teach that to somebody else. And that's what I'm getting at as far as what are we paying these guys 10 million, 9 million, 8.9 and 3 million for, 13 million for. 5 million with Coach Prime. He's way underpaid. The thing is, when you look at Belichick and Parcells, a lot of their assistants, except at the college level, are not very successful. And I think it's because of their people skills and also, their teaching skills versus with the Bill Walsh, Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, even Steve Mariucci, and what's the guy out of Tampa? They call him Chucky. I can't think of his name right now, but they call him Chucky. He coached for John Gruden. These guys are great teachers, and they were offensive coaches. The thing I'm saying is, when you have a system, whether it be the run and gun, the air raid like Mike Leach, and you can teach a great coach what they're just like a teacher in class. They take a dumb kid, and they can make them average. You take an average kid, you can make them smart. You take a smart kid, and you can make them brilliant, elite. That's the whole point. Like, even with a lot of these single mothers or just parents in general, when you take your kid to a high school or to a park, don't look at who's winning. Why are they winning? Are they winning just because they got all the best players? Anybody can do that. What is the kid learning? Are they coming home, Mom, Dad, I learned this, I learned that? Are you seeing a kid improve? If they're not improving, then a lot of times the organization's gaining from the kid, but the kid's not gaining anything. And a lot of times it's getting exposed in this new transfer portal free agency era where guys are running away from teaching and they're trying to stand on, I got the better players. So I'm calling out the Kirby Smarts. I'm calling out everybody on this list that makes all of this money. I think that Dabo earns his money. And I think we're going to see that this year. He just didn't use the transfer portal. But guess what? Before the transfer portal came out, everybody had to get their players and develop them. So I don't know why you guys think that just because he's not using the portal, he's not going to win. Where were the transfers at Michigan last year? Maybe they just were up and down. And in a down year for Clemson, it's 10 wins or 9 wins. So that's not down. But let's go to Lincoln Riley. He's winning with Miller Moss because he blew out a 10-win Louisville team. So we're going to say he's going to win. He won with Caleb Williams and won a Heisman with him. He had a walk-on win a Heisman in Baker Mayfield. He had Kyler Murray, and these guys are under 6 feet. So he's a great teacher. I think he's earning his $11 million. He just needs to get a defensive coordinator the same way those defensive coaches get offensive coordinators. You saw Saban go get Steve Sarkisian and Kiffin, Lane Kiffin, that's at my alma mater, Ole Miss, getting $9 million. He's definitely earning that. You see, with the Josh Heupel, he go get a good defensive coordinator. So that's another thing. If you're an offensive coach, you need to get somebody that can teach the defense. If you're a defensive coach, you need to get somebody that can teach the offense. And when they leave, replace them with somebody that runs the same system or somebody that can teach their system well. I hate when coaches get a bunch of players and they say, oh, they sorry, they dumb, they suck. No, you suck. Why aren't you better at teaching? Like, oh, I only know the 3-4. I don't know the 4-3. They have something called coaching clinics. You can look it up. They have them all the time. So just like players should be getting better in the offseason, shouldn't coaches be getting better? And so I'm glad that I could bring this up with the screen sharing thing. So now you see that I'm not lying. They have coaching clinics all over the country. You see all these different coaching clinics? That's my former coach, Hugh Freeze. He has a coaching clinic at Auburn. He's a quarterback whisperer and a quarterback guru. You got the Atlanta Falcons coaching clinic because all it is basically learning a new system versus a lot of these guys, they'll learn the option or they'll learn the spread offense and they don't want to adapt. One thing I can say about Bill Belichick, he adapted to his players and he adapted to the opponent he played this week. So if you were good against the pass, he ran the ball on you. If you were good against the run, he threw the ball. If you were good against both, he would run and then throw on play action to throw you off guard. Or they might speed it up so you can't sub out your players. It's a thinking thing. But a lot of guys are getting paid $10 million and they're not thinking. And they're not teaching their players to think. Even with this whole thing about playing freshmen. All you have to do, because I've seen Hugh Freeze do it, you just get your playbook and chop it down from 25 plays or 100 plays to let's say 20 or let's say 15. Once their players master that after the first 3 weeks, then you might every run have a pass go off it. Every pass have a run go off it. Then let's say we're in 20 personnel, which is 2 backs, 3 wide receivers, no tight ends. You can still run the same routes from different positions. Take away 1 back from the fullback and put him at tight end. So now you're in 11 personnel. If he was running the flare route or the flat route, now he could just run a flat route from tight end. So it's basically the same play, but a different look. You just got to basically be a good teacher to be a good coach. So is your coach, I'm not going to call out anybody's name specifically, but I want a lot of you teams to look at your coach and see, is he a good teacher or is he just recruiting? And are you paying him $10 million to recruit? And the reason why I bring that up is the Florida Gators and Billy Napier. See, a lot of people like to jump on Dan Mullen, right? They like to jump on Dan Mullen. They like to say he couldn't recruit. Well, this is the most recent Florida Gator recruiting class, number 7. That's a 2024. But if we go look at Billy Napier in his time at Florida, on the field, Billy Napier in 23 was 5-7, and in 22 he was 6-7. Versus Dan Mullen on the field. Well, we're gonna go look it up in a second. But let me just show you the recruiting, because they said they fired him for recruiting. So now you see a number 7 class, I believe, in 24. Then this is 23. He had a number 12 class. This is Billy Napier. Now let's go to 22. Because they claim they fired a winning coach in Dan Mullen because he wasn't recruiting, which I thought the game was about winning. But let's just go look at the recruitment for the argument's sake. Maybe I have to close out some tabs. I got a lot of stuff open. So let me close some stuff. Okay, number 17 class. So now you got number 7. You got number 12, number 17. Now, on the field, all he got was 6-7 and 5-7 out of that. And I hope the Gators win. I know the Gators will win. I got them winning 8 this year. But that's not the point. I just want to make my argument. Now, let's go back to 2018 when Dan Mullen got there. And mind you, they were coming off a 4-7 season, so I don't want to hear about, what he was left by the last coach. Okay, number 14 class. That's right along with Billy Napier. Okay, now let's go to 2019. Let's see what Dan Mullen did. Because he was winning immediately. Number 9 class. So that's very similar. Billy's best class was what, 7? Okay, now let's go to 2020. Number 7 class. So that's even better. Okay, let's go to 21, which would have been his last class as far as Dan Mullen. 12. So they're recruiting about the same. But then let's go to the on-the-field product. Let's see what the Florida Gators were like under Dan Mullen, and then let's see what they were like under Billy Napier. And again, I'm supporting Napier. This is more to the fans in general, because they're trying to run this scam and say, Dan Mullen didn't recruit. Okay, first of all, the object of the game is to win. First of all, that's the first thing. So even if he wasn't recruiting, if you can win on the field with 3 stars, I'd rather win with 3 stars than lose with 5 stars. But they got the same players. They both get number 7 classes to number 12 classes. But let's look at on the field product for the Florida Gators. Okay, so you guys see Florida Gators. This is 2018. Now, to show you I'm not lying, that's Dan Mullen's first year. To show you I'm not lying, let's go back to 2017. They were 4-7. Now, look at this. Number 6 in the country, 10-3. They blew Michigan out in the Peach Bowl, New Year's 6, 41-15. Now, number 6 in the country again, 11-2. They beat Virginia in the Orange Bowl, 36-28. I'm not done. 2020. Regular season, they were 8-2, but they lost to Alabama 46-52 in the SEC championship. They had some opt-outs, no excuse. They got blowed out in the Cotton Bowl, but at least they went 20-55 against Oklahoma. His last year, which was his only losing season, which he didn't even finish the season, they were 6-6. They lost in the Gasparilla Bowl to UCF, who they do play this year, so maybe they'll get their revenge. 29-17. Now, that's basically, he did pretty good for those first 4 years, or first 3 years. Now let's look at Billy Napier. 6-7. Now, 5-7. What are we paying for? Recruiting? Now, I will say this with Miami. We're going to go to Miami. I will say this with Miami. I was about to say Al Golden. Mario Cristobal went 5-7. And then Mario Cristobal went 7-6. That's still not touching Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz went 8-2 in the regular season, which turned out to be 8-3. But other than that, he had some bad seasons too. So let's go to Manny Diaz. Let's go to Manny Diaz, and then let's look at Mario Cristobal. And I do believe Cristobal will do good, but at the end of the day, I'm telling you, it's not just about recruiting. You have to be able to coach when players get hurt or when you don't have the best players. Okay, Manny Diaz, first year, 6-7 versus what is his name? Cristobal was 5-7. But let's look what he was coming off of. He was coming off a 7-6 year. Okay. Then let's look to 2020. 8-2 regular season. With the bowl game, they were 8-3. They lost with their quarterback hurt. De'Aaron King got hurt. They lost 34-37 in a Cheez-It Bowl to Oklahoma State last year. And remember, they played Alabama in this year. They went 7-5. So it's not that far off, but he never. Well, I take that back. He did have a losing season. He went 6-7, but he went to a bowl game. Versus you're going to see Mario went 5-7. And then Mario went 7-6. That's why it's a lot of pressure. But let's go to the recruiting and see the difference. Let's go to when Manny got there as far as the recruiting and see the difference. Mario made a big difference with recruiting, but at the end of the day, you still have to win on the field. You have to earn your check by winning on the field. So let's go to Miami 2019. And let's see what, because everybody says that, Billy was given a horrible program by Dan Mullen. Mario was given a horrible program by Cristobal. Now, that's why I go back to Saban. I think that Mario was given a horrible program, not because of the talent, but because of the undisciplined stuff that was going on. But he still has to win. Now, they had the number 17 class in 2019. That's the first year of Manny. Then they have, in 2020, hold on, it's loading. They had a number 11 class. Then in the last year of Manny, 21, they had 17, they had 11. Okay, they're 11 again. So he's basically in the teens. Now, I will get us to Mario. Mario does not recruit in the teens, but you still got to coach him up. So when we go to 22, first year of Mario, and I know people are going to say the first year of Billy Napier, the first year of Mario don't count because they came in December, so that's most of the last coach players, but that's not the point. I'm saying who they're coaching. Okay, the 13 class, so that's still along with what Manny does. Now let's go to 23. Let's go to 23 and see what Mario's able to do. Because Mario is a great recruiter. You got to give him, okay, number 8. The composite got him 7. So we're going to take the top number. So you go all the way from 13 to 7. So he's definitely out recruiting Manny. But he isn't out winning them yet. But I believe he will. I believe he will. My whole point is, okay, now he got the number 4 composite, number 6 class. So the argument for Miami for the better recruiting, that actually makes sense. So you're earning your money. But that's my whole point. If you're going to demand all of this paper, all of this currency, what are we paying you for? You know, when we look at the top paid college coaches or even NFL coaches, you know, because this is just going back to what Kirby was saying as far as, I don't know what I'm going to do because we don't have the same depth. Coach, that's what you need to do. Get those guys ready. Get them ready the same way Belichick did, or even save it in the NFL, because in the NFL, just like high school, now the college is waking up. You don't have the wide disparity where one school or one NFL team got all the talent, and then you playing against people that have lesser talent, and then you trying to act like you this better coach. And I'm not saying Kirby can't coach. Kirby didn't get what he got by not being able to coach. But I am going to say this. Let's look at these salaries and tell me, do you want to hear a guy making $13 million, $11.5 million, $11 million? I only got some good players, but not all my players are 5 stars. We're not saying I want you to win with the 50th or the 60th recruiting class. You see these type of classes, the same stuff that you see Miami getting and Florida getting, Georgia getting even better. Because Miami and Florida were in the teens and in a high single digits, anywhere from 7. Miami was actually at 4. So anywhere from 4 all the way up to like 17. Georgia's always in the top 5. So Even with the stragglers, you get the 3 stars. You should be able to make something happen with it. Because guess what? You're not the only coach with a transfer leaving. You're not the only coach that got guys that have to demand NIL or they're not gonna play for you. All the coaches are experiencing it, and all of these coaches are not getting 13 million. We got some getting 11, going down. We see the 9s, you see the 8.5s. Mario Cristobal getting 8, Billy Napier getting 7.3. Then Brett Bielema at Illinois, he's getting 6.2. I haven't heard much about Illinois, so he might be stealing. I'm not going to say he's stealing, but my whole thing is, what are we paying these guys this top dollar for? I may not agree with everything that Hugh Freeze does, but he's a heck of a coach at Auburn, so he's earning that 6.73. He might be underpaid. The whole thing is, are they getting the players better? But we're going to get off that subject, and we're going to move on to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins had some injuries in the running back room. That's why the star rookie will soon to be star rookie Wright from Tennessee. Jalen Wright from Tennessee. You saw him do good in the first preseason game. He didn't play last game, and then Chris Brooks from Cal, he actually got hurt, so they replaced him with Booker McFarland's son, Anthony McFarland Jr. out of Maryland that was playing in the UFL. Also in Dolphin news, I've been seeing Odell Beckham. He's still been jogging and stuff. He's not back to practice. But another thing, I don't know if you heard it, I mentioned it, but let me get back on this. Tua Tagovailoa did an interview talking about the old coach, Brian Flores, and he didn't care for his coaching style because he was saying every day when I'm trying to work, this guy's telling me what I'm not, that I'm not good, that I'm not this, and I'm not that. Now, I'm kind of torn on it because I don't want undisciplined or soft-minded players, and I know the game of football, I know some toughness works, but I don't think you got to go overboard with it. But you do have to have a balance, because you have some guys you kiss their behind, and now they start thinking they can do whatever they want to do. So it's a give or take, Another thing with the Dolphins is Tyreek Hill is having a back and forth online with Noah Lyles, the guy that ran the Olympics. He ran he's a sprinter, run like 200 to 100. They were debating who would win in a 50-yard dash, talking about signing a contract and put the money up. Tyreek Hill, man, it's football season, man. I mean, you can race the guy. I guess invite him to practice facility. Y'all got the field right there. Run from the 50 to the end zone, or better yet, run from the end zone to the 50. That way you can run all the way through. You don't pull up. But, I think it'll be interesting for the fans. Do it at Dolphin Camp while the kids are out there. Y'all still can do a charity event, get some money, raise for it. I don't think that would be a bad thing. But back on Florida Gator news, it's a guy named I didn't even know he was from South Florida. It's a guy named Harris. What is his last name? What is his first name? I know his last name. Well, anyway, Harris, Stephen Harris. He was comparing Jacoby Jackson, the JUCO player that's playing for the Florida Gators, to Frank Gore, because Stephen Harris was Frank Gore's neighbor, and he also was 2 years younger than him in high school at Coral Gables. So he knew Frank coming up, and he said that's the only guy that I know that reminds me of this kid, Jacoby Jackson. And Jacoby was being funny and DM'd him on IG saying, "Yeah, you better talk good about me." So shout out to Jacoby, shout out to them Gators. Because I am for you guys. I am for Billy Napier. I just want to stop this argument where we're talking about, we don't have players. We got to recruit. Coach, bro. Coach. Don't none of y'all have sorry players. Y'all in the SEC, ACC, y'all got enough to do something. I'm not saying you got to win a national championship. That's another bad argument. People act like because we tell you to win more than 5 games, we telling you to win 12 and 11. No, you can win 10. You can win 9. Iowa does it. Wisconsin does it. They're never in the top recruit. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear all these excuses. They're like buttholes. We all got them and they stink. You know what I mean? Another thing I probably want to touch on, Ole Miss news. Ole Miss always going through it. We used to go through it back when I was there with a guy named Jarrell Poe. Shout out to Jarrell Poe. He do some nice parties, at his apartment house when he was in school. Long story short, we got the guy Deion Smith, number 1 JUCO wide receiver, formerly at LSU, 5-star. He has his paperwork on his end cleared. Everything on Ole Miss's end is cleared, but now they're slowing up the paperwork with the clearinghouse. This goes back to my days at Ole Miss. It's like a lot of schools, Alabama, Georgia, they get a guy, he's practicing the same day. Ole Miss, we got to wait for this. We got to wait for that. NCAA, man, Y'all can try to stop us all y'all want. Ole Miss is in the top 5 and the top 6 of every poll for a reason. In the words of Coach Prime, we coming. Now, to my guy Colin Coherd, before I stop the show. He has a segment, Colin is right and Colin is wrong. So one thing I'll say about Colin, sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. So what do we want to touch on him being right? He was right about that Andy Reid thing that I brought up before. Because Andy Reid has won, like he said, with Donovan McNabb, with Kevin Cobb, with Michael Vick when they thought it was over for Vick. He's won with Alex Smith, though Alex Smith was actually a Harbaugh guy because Harbaugh won with him before. I gotta correct you on that. In 2011, they went all the way to the NFC Championship with Alex Smith, and then they replaced him with Colin Kaepernick. But he kept it going once he went to Kansas City because they thought Alex Smith was washed. But he also won with Patrick Mahomes versus when Tom Brady left Belichick, he was kind of handicapped. So he's right about that. That goes down to that teaching thing, but it also goes down to Andy Reid as an offensive coach. I'm sure if he was dependent on defensive player, he would have been handicapped because it's not like the New England Patriots defense fell off. They still got great defensive players to this day. Look at Christian Gonzalez. Look at the linebackers they got, that defensive line they got. That's all Belichick. You know, even the running backs they had. The guy out of Oklahoma. That's all Belichick. I think the only thing with Ramondre Stevenson, got a heck of a name on it, Ramondre. I think the only thing with Belichick is just getting along with people. And no, he's not everybody's taste. But I'm not gonna say Andy Reid's a better coach. But I do like you to have discipline, but have the balance that you can have a relationship with your students or with your players. You know, because things work better when people like you. But another thing I want to touch on where Colin was wrong at is Colin is one of those guys. He keeps saying that you can tell in the first training camp or you can tell in the first year if a guy's going to be good. I got a list of guys, Colin, and I hope you respond. Bo Nix, sucked at Auburn, good at Oregon, good at Denver so far. You look at Jaden Daniels. Remember what he was at Arizona State? People didn't even want him at LSU. Heisman winner now. Joe Burrow had to leave Ohio State. Heisman winner, he's the man in Cincinnati. Went to a Super Bowl with Cincinnati. That ain't happened since the 80s. Jordan Travis for Florida State. He looking pretty good from what I'm seeing with the Jets in practice or whatever. He's still recovering from that leg injury. But on top of that, they were telling him at Louisville and at Florida State, go play wide receiver. You know how they like to do the black quarterbacks. Go play wide receiver. Jordan Travis is probably one of the top quarterbacks to ever play at Florida State because he took his time with Mike Norvell. So I have to push back on that thing. You can see right away if a guy's good. That's actually the exception to the rule. But the rule is to teach and take your time. Just because one student understands on Monday doesn't mean another student won't get it on Thursday and they both pass the test on Friday. You know, you get a lesson plan on Monday. Some people got to study Monday to Thursday. At the end of the day, an A is an A, no matter how long it took for us to get there. So you can't throw people away and just say because they don't understand that they're not smart. Now, another group of people that are smart, I actually talked to them yesterday. They got a pretty dope podcast. They let me go on there. I actually asked a question about because I'm kind of really suspicious of what's the guy name? Chip Kelly. If you heard of Chip Kelly, he used to coach at Oregon, UCLA. He actually took over the Eagles after Andy Reid, and he was unsuccessful. Not because he couldn't coach, but because he didn't get along with a lot of the guys, particularly LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson and different guys like that. Well, you know, I asked the question to Crane and Company, and I'm trying to pull them up, but my computer is moving slow. Okay, here are these guys. Go follow their YouTube. No, they were so kind to have me on their podcast yesterday when they were having a call-in show. It's towards the end. I call in. I say I'm Ty from Ty Sports, and I asked them, do they think that Chip Kelly is now the coach or the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, leaving a head coaching job at UCLA because he knows that Ryan Day at Ohio State has pressure to beat Michigan, which he won't do this year. And if he doesn't beat Michigan, will Ryan Day be pushed out? Or will he leave to go to the NFL or leave to go to another college job? And they were saying, I don't think that that's Chip Kelly's intention. He probably doesn't want to be a head coach with that pressure. That's cap. He's been a head coach for years. He was a head coach in the NFL, UCLA, which they were doing okay last year. They were 8-5 for UCLA. That's decent. You know, I just feel like he just didn't want to be at UCLA because of the NIL situation and have to compete with USC versus at Ohio State. If he gets that job, he's the man at the top of the hill. But I feel like he was Ryan Day's mentor, and he's a better coach than Ryan Day. So I feel like he's always going to be that threat for the alumni to be like, hey, maybe we should get rid of Ryan Day and get a Chip Kelly, which is really a more accomplished coach. You know, he took Oregon to the national championship. He's been an NFL coach, whether they liked him or not. He also did okay at UCLA when they've been doing bad historically over the last, couple of decades. So that's just something to keep in mind. But follow Crane and Company. I actually called in. You can go see that episode from yesterday. I'm gonna try to call in again maybe next week. Because they actually heard my name was Ty Sports Picks, and they were smart enough to pick up on it. And they said, "Okay, Ty, what's your pick on Florida State?" And I said, I don't like the 13.5, but I'll take the 11.5. But I will say this: don't play with Vegas. So let's stay watching. You might want to live bet it if it goes down within the quarter. If it goes down to within a touchdown, let's take that and just cash out on that 11.5. But if you one of those guys that like to bet before the game, then you can take the 11.5 because I think they'll be leading by 10 all game, and they might do a little cheap field goal at the end to cover. But I don't like the New Mexico and Montana State game. Montana State is favored over New Mexico, I think by 10.5. We're gonna touch on that later on in the week, but that's very suspicious for any FBS team to be a 10-plus point underdog to an FCS team. I can even see 2.5. That's as far as I can go. But because Montana State isn't even a national champ. They're not South Dakota State. They're not North Dakota State. This is Montana State. This isn't even Montana. This is Montana State. And the line for Montana State versus New Mexico is nasty. I'm going to see if they pull up the line on ESPN, and then I'm going to let you guys go. So it's a 4 o'clock game on FS1 on Saturday. I'll probably be watching high school football, but I'll flip back and forth because we got a lot of South Florida teams in that Broward Classic. But yeah, it's 10.5 in the favor of Montana State, which is the FCS school. Now, I will say this. New Mexico was 4-8 last year, but they're in the FBS. Montana State lost their last regular season game 37-7 to Montana, which is the big Montana, and then they lost first round of the playoffs in overtime to North Dakota State 34-35. So they're definitely a good team. They're definitely a good team. They're coming off of a good year, but 10.5 over an FBS team or your FCS, that's kind of suspicious. Yeah, that's kind of suspicious. But that's the show for the day. Thank you guys. Put those picks in, and please donate to the Cash App $Ty Rebel 22. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Ty Sports Picks 24. See you guys later. I got the suit on like a pastor, so donate to my collection plate.